Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Keytime Sports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the key on millions.co. Here is my here is my profile. Here's my profile. Here is my media feed. Here's my media feed for all of my segments and previous sound bites that I've done. And here is my clothing brand and also my merchandise. So for people who want to order some of my apparel, you can open you up a millions.co account, go to my platform, go to my merchandise store, and you can purchase you some millions.co apparel, keys to the road. And here is our brand new logo, part of our rebrand. Now let's get to the topic at hand. We had a game last night that had so many tosses and turns that I'm pretty sure if someone went to sleep early, they probably thought that the Cavaliers won. But you woke up this morning and you see that the Knicks won. And I am just going to say that the Cavaliers, I'm gonna talk about the Cavaliers a little bit later, but I want to talk about the Knicks. The Knicks, they started off this game a little bit sluggish, rusty even, because in the first half they were 2 of 21 from the 3-point line. And as you all can see, the Cavaliers, they had the lead in the third quarter. And as you can all see, when it comes to the Cavaliers, their scores, you had Dean Wade and Jared Allen each have 10 points. Evan Mobley, James Harden each have 15. And Donovan Mitchell have 29 points in 41 minutes. Then you get to the bench production. You had Dennis Schroeder with 3, Max Strus with 8, Sam Morrell with 12, and Keon Ellis with 2. Then you get to the New York Knicks, and you had OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns, Josh Hart, each have 13 points. Mikal Bridges had 8. Jalen Brunson had 38. And then the bench production, everybody was in single digits from Mitchell Robinson 4, Jose Alvarado 4. You had Jordan Clarkson with 3, Landry Shamet with 9, but there's something about Landry Shamet, what he did last night. He was the X factor, but I'm going to talk about him in a few seconds. And then you had Miles McBride with 0. Now, Cleveland Cavaliers had a 22-point lead. 22-point lead, and with 8 minutes left in the fourth, everything was going their way. But I believe the one thing that wasn't on the Cavaliers side was rest, because the Knicks, they had a 9-day layoff. They looked a little bit rusty in the first quarter. They looked a little bit rusty in the third quarter. But they were still able to, I would say, keep things close once we got into the fourth quarter. They were down by 22, but they started chipping away at the lead. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to get to this, and then all of a sudden, James Harden, he went on one of his inefficient streaks again. He was 5 of 16 last night. He had a couple turnovers. And also, it seems like the Cavaliers down the stretch, they couldn't get any rebounds. They couldn't. And what's the one thing that I always say? If you can't close out a game where you are leading by 20 plus points, it is going to be tough for you to win a close game. And I believe for the Cavaliers, it's going to be tough for them to win a close game in game 2, because we all know that the Cavs are going to come back better. And can the Knicks keep this momentum going? But last night, the Knicks, one thing that I perceive from the Knicks is they got a little bit lucky last night. They did, because Turnovers, both teams, they had the same amount of turnovers, fast break points, not many fast break points. But the one thing that hurt the Cavaliers in the second half was points in the paint. The majority of the Knicks scoring in the second half last night came from within points in the paint. And we all see that they didn't have a good night from the 3-point line, only 10 of 32. Then you look at free throws, they got to the free throw line more than the Cavaliers, didn't have a good night. Assists, Cavaliers, they had an advantage of assists. Also steals, they had advantage. And then once we get to the largest lead of the game, it was 22 for the Cavaliers, like I said. And for the Knicks, it was 11. But the thing that I want to say about the Cavaliers is Cavaliers last night, game one. Okay, they played game one. 48 hours prior to that, they were playing in a game 7. And the Cavaliers, they have played the maximum amount of games in the playoffs. They've played 14. Every series that they went to, went to a game 7. Toronto and the Pistons. Now, for the Knicks, OG Anunoby, great to have him back in the fold, great to have him back. But one thing that I can say is Landry Shamet, one of the X factors that I said that would be critical for the Knicks to win this series, showed up last night. Not just on the and I'm not just talking about, offensive end and that game time 3 late in the game that he made. I'm talking about on defense, he got a couple steals, he forced some turnovers, and that is basically what kept the Knicks afloat. But I got to give credit where credit is due, because Jalen Brunson, he pretty much willed the Knicks to victory in game 1 last night. Now, one thing about it, the last few seconds, I'm going to get to the last few seconds of this game. Once we get to the fourth quarter, see, this is where 6 minutes left and the Cavaliers were up by 17. I'm saying, are the Cavs going to come into New York and win game 1 and give themselves a home court advantage? But I just kept on looking because I was about to call the game early and I was about to write my story for today as I'm giving it to you. But all of a sudden we see Jalen Brunson go down, score, get it back down to 12. Right here, he gets it down to 10. And all of a sudden, under 5 minutes left, I'm saying the Knicks have a chance. And with this 3-pointer, I was like, there we go. I was like, okay, the Knicks, they going to find a way to win this game. Because when you look, even though that Evan Mobley had a good shot right there, didn't hear much from him last night. And Mikal Bridges right here, that was a off-balance shot, and he had a defender in his face, and it was just basically off of luck. And then we see where at the bottom right here, the Knicks in the last 7 minutes before Shamet hits this 3, the Knicks were on a 25-6 run. So here is Landry Shamet for the critical 3, a couple bounces, went in, and we are at a tied game. James Harden didn't have a good night. There's 2 of his 15 points, and Jalen Brunson back up, tied the game. And here is the final seconds. Now, final seconds. James Harden has the ball. Now, 6.4 seconds left. This was a good look for Sam Morrell. It just didn't go down. It was halfway in and halfway out. But I'm going to say something right here. This is where what I always say, America, a team, they can be tied or they can be down, but they can have the momentum. The New York Knicks had the momentum going into overtime. See, the Cavaliers, they should have put the New York Knicks to bed with about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But since they got it to where the New York Knicks tied the game, I said overtime, it was the New York Knicks. And as you all can see, Jalen Brunson through the middle, up by 4, and then the Knicks, they went up by 9 right here. Landry Shamet again, up by 9 with under 2 minutes left in overtime. And then all of a sudden, the Cavaliers, they only scored once, and that was their only bucket that they scored. Now, how can the Cavaliers regroup when it comes to game 2? I believe what the Cavaliers can do is try and not preserve the lead like they were doing, because there were a lot of times during that run that the Knicks had, 25-6 run that the Knicks had, where before that run started, the Cavaliers, they were just preserving the lead, dribbling the ball, and they took a shot with 5 seconds left on the shot clock. Now, if they would have had better shot selection earlier on in the shot clock, we probably wouldn't be having the type of conversation that we are having this morning when it translates to a Knicks win, because all in all, this should have been a Cavaliers win because they had an 86% chance of winning this game. Now, even when the Cavaliers, when they were up by 22, 86% chance. When the Cavaliers, when the deficit dropped from 22-6, that is where the Cavaliers messed up at. And I heard right after the game, I heard a couple of commentators and analysts said that the Cavaliers, they should have called the timeout. Now, Kenny Atkinson, if I was Kenny Atkinson, and my team had a 22-point lead, and all of a sudden I see it get reduced to 7 or 8, I'm calling a timeout. And I'm not even waiting for it to get under single digits. After the Cavaliers missed the first 3 shots and the New York Knicks went down and scored on back-to-back possessions, and the deficit was 18, I would have said, okay, guys, let's call a timeout and let's review what we are supposed to be doing, because you can't let that momentum just shift like that. That's why I always say, when it comes to a big lead and a team gets the deficit under single digits, and when a team gets it under 5 points, that's back to when it's anybody's game. So, congratulations to the Knicks. Can the Knicks keep this up in game 2? And can the Cavaliers bounce back? But James Harden, he's got to do better. The X Factors, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, they had good efficient nights, but they took way too many shots. They didn't score their 15 or 20 points on the same level of efficiency as we are used to seeing. So, game 2 is tomorrow night. Now, let me get to the Western Conference Finals, game 2. And I'm just going to do a quick rough draft because game 2 is tonight. And we already know the previews and predictions that I gave about this game Monday. So, one thing that I expect to see, I expect to see the Spurs come out and try and keep the momentum going. But I am going to say something, America. And I want somebody to clip this when I say it. If the Oklahoma City Thunder lose this game tonight, game 2, I don't see the series coming back to Oklahoma for a game 5. I just don't. Because the Thunder, they have matchup problems. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and say it. They have matchup problems because I do not want to see Alex Caruso on Wemby. Because that's a mismatch in my book. No, Chet Holmgren, he need to be on Wemby, and Jalen Williams need to be on Wemby. You need to have those two guys rotation, shuffling them in and out of the game throughout the entirety of the game, because you don't need Alex Caruso on Victor Wembanyama. What you need, who you need Alex Caruso on, you need Alex Caruso on Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, or if De'Aaron Fox plays tonight, you need Alex Caruso on De'Aaron Fox. That's the type of matchup that if I was the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I would be giving to my assistant coaches, because we already know that Victor Wembanyama, credit, he is going to get his 35 or 40. He going to get that. But can you neutralize Stephon Castle? Can you neutralize Devin Vassell? Can you neutralize De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle? I said Stephon Castle. And all of those bench players, Julian Champagne coming off the bench for the Spurs, in order for the Thunder to win game 2, I believe that is what is going to happen, because it's pretty much, I hate to say this, but game 2, I believe Oklahoma season is on the line if they don't win game 2, because I'm going to tell y'all something. It's been a minute since Oklahoma won in San Antonio. It has been. It's been almost a full 2 years since Oklahoma won in San Antonio. And I'm not just saying them playing against San Antonio at a neutral site. No, I'm saying in San Antonio, it's been a while since the Oklahoma City Thunder won a game in San Antonio. So the odds is against the Thunder if they lose tonight, but they gotta come out. They gotta come out better prepared. And as far as the turnovers, you can't have as many turnovers as you did in game 1. Oklahoma had 17 turnovers in game 1. San Antonio had 21, but San Antonio was able to win. And also shooting droughts. Oklahoma, they can't have too many shooting droughts, because the Spurs, they have a walking bucket getter in Wemby. He's the tallest on the floor. You just pass the ball to him and he puts it in the basket. Now Victor Wembanyama, he's on this streak of games where he's got Wilt Chamberlain numbers. He had 40 and 20 Monday night. Let's see how many points and see how many rebounds he can get tonight. But this is the Thunder's toughest challenge yet, because throughout the past couple of years, we've noticed with the Thunder, they've played against teams like, we know, the Timberwolves and the Nuggets, and they've always been able to shake off the inefficiencies earlier on in the series. But I believe against a team like the Spurs, you don't want to go down 2-0 and you got to go to San Antonio, a place where you haven't won in almost 2 years. That's almost like, I'm gonna say that's equivalent to almost like going into a lion's den and you know that you at a disadvantage going into that Lions den, and you just hope that you are able to slow the game down, because the Spurs they have a tendency to play with a faster pace when they are at home. And the Thunder also do too, but game one, they wasn't able to play with that fast pace because the Spurs, they played a whole lot of zone and not man to man. Now that is where the Thunder they've had trouble this season, because teams that play zone versus the Thunder, they end up losing to them. The Thunder have ended up losing to teams that have played zone 90% of the time in the game. And I believe that even though this series is far from over, because I think that the Thunder will win this series in 7, but I'm just not confident the OKC Thunder can come back from a 2-0 deficit. Now, I hope that I'm wrong, but you gotta get a split in these first 2 games. You just have to. Tonight is a critical game. X Factors, Alex Caruso, Jalen Williams, the other Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren, I don't know if I've ever put a starting player as an X factor, but Chet Holmgren is the X factor for tonight's game. The Spurs, the Thunder, they've got to find some way to neutralize Victor Wembanyama. I don't care if Victor Wembanyama scores 35, or let's just say he scores 40 points tonight. But don't let his 40 be the reason why the Spurs won. Because there have been times in recent playoff history where players, they've scored 35, 40 points. And even though that one player scored 40 points, the team still ends up losing. So everybody for the Thunder, it's gonna have to be all hands on deck. We know SGA is not gonna have an inefficient game like he did where he was 7 or 23. We already know that. And we know that as far as when it comes to turnovers, we know that the Thunder, they're not going to turn the ball over as much as they did in game 1. And I expect a very entertaining game. Let's see how this game can measure up to game 1. Because if game 2 is anything like game 1, everybody be prepared to watch this game for 3.5 to 4 hours. That's if it's the exact same way like game 1. But like I said, the only way that this game and this series is a blowout is if the team that turns the ball over the most, the opponent, starts scoring consistently off of their turnovers. And with that is my prediction and reaction from game 1 and my preview for game 2 in tonight's Western Conference Finals between the Spurs and the Thunder, and my reaction for the Eastern Conference Finals, the Cavaliers and the New York Knicks. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the KeyOnMillions.co. Here is my merchandise. Now, for anyone that wants to purchase some Keys to the Road merchandise, here is our brand new logo, part of our rebrand. You can create you an account on Millions. You can go to my profile, which is the Key. You can go to my merchandise store, and you can purchase some Keys to the Road apparel. We have new shirts, we have new joggers, we have new hoodies, and we are working on getting bald caps in the we are working on hats and compression shirts and sweaters for the rest of the year. And here is my media feed so that you can watch my previous segments, clips, sound bites, and interviews from my previous shows. And remember, everyone, one last thing: the key is always on time.